Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. What's that? Musk has been ordered to pay back his $56 billion pay bonus for being disproportionate, which is like the biggest duh moment in history. I mean, for most people, $56 million is more than they will ever spend in their lifetime. This is 1,000 times bigger than that. I mean, is there anything that Musk could conceivably do that would be worth that sort of cash? Especially, as I'll show later, a great portion of that pay bonus would have still been given to a rubber plant if Tesla had decided to go with a rubber plant as their CEO. This was, of course, from the company which he personally guaranteed, that he would never sell his stock in.
Billionaire entrepreneur Elon Musk puts his money where his mouth is.
I am personally guaranteeing that value and standing behind that guarantee with all of my assets.
As he says, just like my money was the first in, it'll be the last out. It might therefore surprise precisely no one that Musk has sold more Tesla stock than any man in history. No, he just personally believes in the stock that much. You see, all in, Musk put in about $70 million to Tesla, and he's now sold some $40 billion of Tesla stock. So where did all this value come from? Well, I'll tell you where it didn't come from: selling cars. The entire lifetime profit of Tesla was only some $25 billion. No, this didn't come from selling cars. It came from selling something much more valuable than cars. Lies. But don't worry, time is catching up with Elon. So last year, he was actually forced to buy Twitter for some $40 billion, after he had tried his hardest to weasel out the agreement.
Did you do that? Did you do that?
I kind of had to.
Right. Did you do that because you thought that a court would make you do that?
Yes.
Right.
Yes, that is the reason.
Right. So you were still trying to get out of it, and then you just were advised by lawyers, look, you're going to have to buy this.
Yes.
And Twitter's market value is now some $10 billion, and he still owes some $10 billion in debt on it, making the company's free market value essentially zero. Now, that's a man who earns his $56 billion bonuses.
Because I have to triage the things that I do at each company and constantly think about what is the most useful thing that I could do.
And in this case, Musk decided the most useful thing that he could do was to call himself the Chief Troll Officer.
I triage the tasks and try to do the things that are most useful or where I'm most needed.
And take the market value of the company to effectively zero. Now, you got to appreciate that reducing the value of $1 billion company to effectively zero in about a year takes a lot of work. You've got to be dedicated to this.
All right, last question. 3 pieces of advice to entrepreneurs.
First of all, I really need to give some thought to how can I provide advice that would be most helpful?
Go f*** yourself. Is that clear? I hope it is.
This is it! This is the sign!
Yeah, it's a sign, all right. Going out of business.
It might take a certain level of genius to spend $40 billion on a company that makes 90% of its revenue from advertising. Twitter, X, is basically an ad sales company, and it's now led by a guy telling people to not only not advertise on X, but if you're stopped advertising, you can GFY.
And then just work like hell.
Yes. No.
I mean, Linda Yaccarino's right here, and she's got to sell advertising.
Absolutely. So, no, totally. No.
They try to work as much as possible, to the edge of sanity, basically.
I mean, you just have to put in, 80 to 100-hour weeks every week.
Gosh.
And
That's
then
a lot of work.
In 1 year, you will achieve what they achieve. You will achieve in 4 months what it takes them a year to achieve.
Okay.
What this advertising boycott is going to do? It's going to kill the company.
So between the complete financial destruction of Twitter and now losing this $56 billion pay bonus, Musk is essentially $100 billion poorer than he used to be. And it's not even a year since I said he would be bankrupt within 5 years. So let's start with just how utterly ludicrous this bonus was in the first place. The operating budget of NASA is about $25 billion per year. You could have run NASA for 2 years for Musk's pay bonus alone. But of course, NASA actually does stuff with that cash, like, land probes on Mars and actually exploring space, sort of space exploration. And what did Musk do with that $56 billion? Why, of course, he added it to his net worth. What did you expect? Actually, that was in 2021. Now his net worth's about half that. I mean, that Curiosity rover that we just saw landing, that only cost a mere $2.5 billion. And it was an amazing success. That is, it did more to further space exploration than the $56 billion pay bonus that Musk got because he wanted to make life multiplanetary? No, it was his moral obligation, which is why he spent precisely zero of that money on trying to make life multiplanetary.
There is, gentlemen, the fastest car in the world.
One of his first things to do is go out and get a big sports car.
Or hell, the entire 20-year lifetime profit of Tesla has only been about $25 billion. That's every single cent of profit that was ever earned by the entire company. They decided, no, this guy is definitely worth a $56 billion pay bonus. I mean, damn, Tesla only has about 100,000 employees. And let's say, $100,000 per employee. That's only going to be some $10 billion in salaries. Meaning that Musk would be getting paid about 5 times as much as the rest of the entire company put together.
SpaceX, Tesla, Neuralink, and Boring Company are philanthropy. If you say philanthropy is love of humanity.
Actually, Tesla is philanthropy if you say philanthropy is loving yourself enough to give yourself a $56 billion bonus. Or we could just take a look at it in terms of historical payouts for CEOs.
I thought it was absurd that chief executive officers were getting 30 times the pay of the typical worker. Asked by Bill Clinton to be his Secretary of Labor, 60-1 CEO pay to average workers. I mean, something had to be done about it, but we never imagined it would become 350-1.
Musk doesn't just kind of break this chart, he utterly breaks this chart. I mean, factors of two really don't matter here. So let's just say that the average employee gets some $50,000 per year and Musk is getting $50 billion per year. He's getting paid about 1 million times as much as your average employee. And at that point, does it really matter whether it's 1 million times more or 500,000 times more or 100,000 times more? I mean, remember this chart where 350-1 in 2020 was absurd. Let's try and put Musk on the same scale here. The 350-1, which was previously held to be absurd, is hidden within the thickness of the line, whereas Musk is getting paid about 1 million times more than the average worker. I mean, do these numbers make any sense to anyone not in a cult? The reason why this got smacked down in court was because of the basic accusation that Musk had stacked the board of Tesla with friends he vacationed with and other well-paid lackeys, who then, unsurprisingly, voted on his compensation package, or misled other stockholders, just not disclosing that their advice, which was meant to be impartial, was anything but. Now, I don't really care about the details because it doesn't really matter, because this payout was 250 times bigger than the average CEO package, which, as we saw earlier, are already pretty crazy. And 33 times the largest ever stock bonus in history, which was, shock and horror, also for Musk. The whole thing was basically cooked from the beginning, with the first few milestones that Musk had to achieve were basically the company's expectations of what was going to happen in the next year or so.
One of these board members was a man named Antonio Gracias, who runs a private equity fund called Valor Equity Partners. He has a close relationship with Musk and has previously vacationed with him to the Bahamas. Gracias testified that at the time when the compensation plan was decided, Tesla's internal forecasts already expected 3 of the milestones to be achieved within the next 18 months. These internal forecasts were not disclosed to shareholders when they voted to approve the compensation plan.
That is, you could have put a rubber plant in charge of Tesla, and that would have still received about $14 billion of compensation under the structure of the pay package negotiated by Musk for its invaluable contribution to leading Tesla. Now, it turns out that when Musk got this deal rubber stamped through Tesla, the entire company was worth some $50 billion. And just so we fully appreciate the sheer, unadulterated greed at the core of this, Musk at the time owned about a quarter of Tesla. But whatever, let's call it $10 billion. If he really did increase its market cap by a factor of 10, we'll come to why changing the market cap's maybe not so important. He would have effectively turned his $10 billion in Tesla into $100 billion. At that point, what exactly are you compensating him for? Which is what most other CEOs do. But no, Musk wanted another $50 billion. If he made enough vaporware claims to pump the stock up to temporarily that sort of price. The origin of the deal was, of course, Musk, and it was dictated by Musk. There was no meaningful negotiation from the board members, who were meant to negotiate for the shareholders, and then it was misrepresented to the shareholders to get their vote. Now, according to some of these people, Musk needed that money for his dream of fulfilling his goal of making life multiplanetary. Except apparently none of that money has gone to making life multiplanetary. Because in the meantime, far rather than actually funneling all of this great wealth into SpaceX, he's actually been borrowing money from SpaceX. SpaceX has actually instead relied on a constant stream of burning both government and investor cash rather than making a functional business. Musk doesn't spend his own money on SpaceX. He prefers to burn other people's money. You know, investor rounds. They've made no attempt to leave a low Earth orbit in any controlled fashion, let alone explore space. I mean, if you're being honest and would just call SpaceX by what it does by volume, it's basically a Starlink launch provider. Launching proprietary satellite internet, that's such a great landmark for making life multiplanetary. But didn't Musk actually make the company worth 10 times more? Didn't he earn this $50 billion bonus? The thing is that a lot of time valuations like this really aren't that tied to reality. There are these things called meme stocks. Like GameStop didn't suddenly become 100 times more valuable because of some great financial move by some financial genius. It's a combination of a couple of things that happen in the market. The first is a herding instinct. That is, if the price is going up and everyone else is buying it, it must be good, right? So I should buy some now. Pushing up the stock price even more. The second is the billionaire on paper scam. The core of it is like this. I make a company with 1 billion shares and a personal friend who I spend my holidays with buys a single share for $1. Is my company now worth $1 billion? Well, its market cap certainly is. After all, the company is 1 billion shares and their current market price is $1. But I want to stress, this company literally does nothing yet. Now, another guy comes along and I tell him that my company is the fastest growing tech company on the planet. That its valuation has already soared to $1 billion in the shortest time of any company ever. And it's just invented a machine that magically creates $100 bills, which we're going to sell for $10. And if you're thinking this is just too ludicrous to be an example, conceptually, this is exactly what Musk does later to pump the stock of Tesla. And with this new money printing machine, we're going to become the most valuable company on Earth in 10 years. And based on that, another guy buys a share at $10. Did I really make my company worth 10 times more? But what if I went on and said, no, I'm also the genius who invented the Hyperloop, the sports car, the truck that will call emergency services if you get sick, the solar roof, and so forth. Now, that's not quite Tesla. Because Tesla, underneath all of that, is a very unremarkable car company. I mean, once it had a first-to-market advantage, but that no longer exists, and their share of the market is evaporating fast. that they are not sensibly competitive in the current market. Further, they've mostly saturated the luxury market, and so now their prices have been dropping, making them an unremarkable car company. In fact, you could almost rename Tesla at the moment as the Model 3 and Y company, because 96% of the cars that they make are either the Model 3 or Model Y. In fact, quick shout out to the Common Sense Skeptic, who does some great breakdowns of these sorts of numbers in the earnings calls. But Tesla keeps selling themselves as this amazing, revolutionary tech company, right? Well, let's take a look at that, shall we? For 2023, apparently they installed some 223 megawatts of installed solar power and made some 2 million cars, that sort of thing. So let's see, 2 million cars, 200 million watts of solar installed. So that's 100 watts of installed solar power per car. That is, for every car like this they make, they also install about a $100 solar panel about this size, which means the electricity to power these cars comes from the grid, which is 80% powered by burning fossil fuel. Musk has basically just made a giant fleet of long tailpipe, fossil fuel powered cars.
Because it doesn't help if we have sustainable consumption of energy, but then that energy isn't produced in a sustainable way.
Or looked at another way, for every $50,000 car like that they sell, they also install a $100 solar panel made in China. So yes, technically Tesla isn't just a car company. It's just 99.8% a car company. Now, some 10 years ago, of course, Musk was saying that they were going to have solar-powered superchargers in the UK.
And I'll add one more thing to that, which is we're going to be installing solar panels at all of the supercharger locations, which are intended to develop or generate more electricity in the course of the year than the cars consume that charge there. So the net result is that you'll not only be able to travel for free forever, but on pure sunlight.
It'll surprise exactly no one that that was complete bullshit, and that there are no solar-powered superchargers in the UK. In fact, as far as I can tell, there are no solar-powered superchargers anywhere in the world. And if Musk's goal was just to power his electric cars with solar, he's delivered about 3% of what he promised. You'll of course be shocked to find out that he repeated the exact same lie years later when he was unveiling the totally not a scam Tesla Semi.
The same will be true of the Tesla Semi. You'll be able to travel anywhere in the world on the Tesla Megacharger network. And that means we can guarantee the electricity rates, because these will be solar-powered megachargers that charge to a Tesla power pack. It's 24/7, guaranteed low electricity.
Okay, and here we are some 7 years later, and Tesla has precisely 0 public solar-powered megachargers, which charge to Tesla power packs. In fact, they have 0 guaranteed rate solar megachargers. In fact, they have 0 public megachargers with guaranteed rates. In fact, they have 0 public megachargers at all. In fact, they actually want the US taxpayer to give them $100 million to build merely 10 or so of them. Not solar-powered ones, of course, just charging stations.
What I can say is we're going to move to just truly massive scale. Scale that no company has ever achieved in the history of humanity.
So the Tesla Semi went from being a wonder truck that would beat rail on day one.
A Tesla truck considered by itself beats other diesel trucks.
With full autopilot that would be safer than a human now.
The convoy technology, the tracking technology, this is something that we are confident we can do today 10 times safer than a human driver. So I want to be clear, this is something we can do now. What this means is it's not just economic suicide to use one diesel truck, it's economic suicide for rail. This beats rail. And that's I think really quite profound. We're confident that this is a product that is better in every way from a feature standpoint, that wins on economics against diesel trucks in a worst case scenario, and that defeats rail in a convoy scenario.
It was guaranteed not to break down for 1,000,000 miles. and would do all sorts of other crazy stuff. They went from that in 2017 to when it was finally delivered in about 2022 to a barely functional truck with closely guarded specs. The only plausible reason for which is the truck is expensive and doesn't deliver on any of the crazy stuff that it promised. And a year or so after they delivered the first ones, they removed even the option to order one from their website. Wow, that's an interesting pattern that Musk announces something that is fully functional now, then years later releases something that is barely functional, then later just doesn't do it at all. I wonder if that's going to be a pattern. But Musk has been very clear in pushing Tesla not as the Model 3 and Y company, but as a revolutionary company that in 2017 had this feature called Smart Summon.
Someone's going to sit in a Tesla without touching the steering wheel, tap in New York, off it goes, won't have to ever touch the wheel by the end of 2017.
That by the end of the year, you could just push a button and your Tesla would eventually come and find you, even if you were in New York and it was in LA.
Yeah, essentially November or December of this year, we should be able to go from, all the way from a parking lot in California to a parking lot in New York, no controls touched at any point during the entire journey.
And by 2022, that feature had advanced to the point where it barely functioned getting across a car lot.
So it's not sort of limited to LA, New York. We could change it and make it Seattle, Florida. That day.
Come on.
Or in real time. So you were going from LA to New York. Now go from LA to Toronto.
And now in 2024, the feature has been disabled because of Tesla's amazing progress with AI and sensors and robotics.
If you think about what we're doing right now with the cars, Tesla is arguably the world's biggest robotics company because our cars are like semi-sentient robots on wheels.
And just so we're clear, Smart Summon, the feature that currently comes with a warning label that it may not anticipate traffic, Smart Summon may not stop for objects, especially very low objects such as some curbs, and very high objects such as a shelf, and may not react at all to traffic. Smart Summon is full self-driving, the ability of the car to drive itself safely without human intervention. A feature that Musk personally unveiled as working in 2016. Tesla drives itself, no human input at all, through urban streets to highway to streets, then finds a parking spot. And boy should he know how the car did it all by itself, as he was personally the one who oversaw faking the video. And adds, when searching for parking, the car reads the signs to see if it's allowed to park there, which is why it skipped the disabled spot. When you want the car to return, tap Summon on your phone and it will eventually find you, even if you're on the other side of the country, using the automated solid metal snake charger. And in the 8 years since Musk tweeted this, the solid metal snake charger has never been mentioned again. And now the feature is completely disabled because they've taken the ultrasonic sensors off their vehicles. 8 years from fully functional to feature disabled.
The overwhelming focus is solving full self-driving. That's really the difference between Tesla being worth a lot of money and being worth basically zero.
So the light that you've been pushing since at least 2016, when you said that full self-driving was ready basically now, was curiously the one that would make Tesla worth a lot of money as opposed to essentially being worth zero. And you would personally gain to the tune of about $50 billion from this. That seems like the sort of thing that might count as fraud. Look, you value Tesla as what it actually does, which is the Model 3 and Y company, and it's worth about $50 billion, roughly 10% of its current market cap. So even looked at like that, Musk owns 20% of it, he still owns $10 billion, right? Well, no, he sold about half of his stock for $40-odd billion, when it was all pumped up.
I am personally guaranteeing that value and standing behind that guarantee with all of my assets.
So he's now only got about 10% of Tesla, worth maybe some $5 billion. If he were to sell it all, we're looking at a guy who lost $30 billion of the value of Twitter in a single year.
My cash balances are very, very low. I simply had loans against my stock. So if Tesla and SpaceX went bankrupt, I would go bankrupt too.
Yeah, Musk used Tesla like his own personal piggy bank. In total, he put about $100 million into it. Then he got a load of venture capital people to throw money into the pot as well, and convinced a load of venture capital people that it was a good investment. And in 2019, he told a load of people that he would have 1 million money-printing robotaxis on the road by next year.
We'll do Model 3, S3 and X as taxis. So the current cost of Model 3 robotaxi is less than $38,000. We expect that number to improve over time. If you say like probably 2 years from now, we make a car that has no steering wheels and pedals. And if we need to accelerate that time, we can always just delete parts, easy. Yeah, probably say long term, 3 years, robotaxis with eliminated parts. Maybe it ends up being $25,000 or less.
Cool. So in 2019, Musk was saying that the current price of a Tesla robotaxi was about $38,000. But I'm just going to call it $30,000 to make the numbers easier. And spoiler, here we are 4 years later on. And not only does Musk not have a robotaxi for $25,000 with eliminated parts, hell, they don't even have the robotaxi they said they had in 2019. Which is maybe why Tesla is currently getting sued for false advertising. And would maybe be the sort of lie that you would tell if you wanted to pump up the stock price artificially, such that you could not only get a $56 billion pay bonus, but also such that you could offload all of that artificially inflated stock based on fraudulent claims. But just to appreciate how truly fraudulent this is, tell me, Elon, this $30,000 robotaxi that you definitely have in 2019, how much is that going to earn for me?
You say, what would be the probable gross profit from a single robotaxi? We think probably something on the order of $30,000 per year.
$30,000 a year for 11 years. That's $300,000.
You say, what is the net present value of a robotaxi? Probably on the order of a couple $100,000. So buying a Model 3 is a good deal.
Cool. So the leader of the company has just told me if I spend $30,000 on one of his cars, it'll earn me a few $100,000 at the rate of about $30,000 a year. Yet when I said Musk's claimed that he created a machine that would make $100 bills and he was going to sell them for $10, I wasn't joking. And how many of these are they going to have and when?
We'll have over 1 million Tesla cars on the road with full self-driving hardware, feature complete, at a reliability level that we would consider that no one needs to pay attention. Meaning you could go to sleep from our standpoint, if you fast forward a year, maybe a year and 3 months, but next year for sure, we will have over 1 million robotaxis on the road.
This is literally like saying he is selling $100 bills for $10.
Your profit on a mere $6,000 investment would be upwards of $60,000. Jesus, that's my mortgage, man. Exactly, you could pay off your mortgage.
And then basically tell people it's a solved problem. We know how to do this.
And in the case of Aerotime, based on every technical factor out there, John, we are looking at a grand slam home run.
And for who do you trust? Hubba, hubba, hubba. Money, money, money. Who do you trust? Me? I'm giving away free money.
Like most of Musk's stuff, it's just a new spin on a very old idea.
The other guys looked at me like I just discovered fire.
And based on promises like that, Tesla stock got pumped up to a crazy amount, at which point he cashed out some $40 billion, selling roughly half his stock. Tesla has since lost about half of its market value, but for some strange reason, Musk didn't feel the need to return half of his pay bonus. Meanwhile, Tesla's core business managed to make a couple of long tailpipe electric cars at volume, and for a while had a first-to-market advantage. But that first-to-market advantage is gone now, and they've had to slash their margins to keep up, and even at that, they're losing market share.
This is a story about how I went from an avid Tesla fan to somebody who will never buy a Tesla again within 2 years of owning this Tesla Plaid.
If you buy a Tesla today, I believe you are buying an appreciating asset, not a depreciating asset.
But this is the worst depreciating car I have ever bought. This car depreciated harder than a 2020 Rolls-Royce Cullinan that I bought. A $500,000 car that's supposed to be the king of depreciation didn't depreciate as much as this Tesla Plaid.
Scale that no company has ever achieved in the history of humanity.
Their profits from selling cars dropped by about 30% last year, and their own forecast for 2024 is it will be significantly worse. Because fundamentally, there is nothing revolutionary about Tesla's cars, which is maybe why Musk says without trade barriers, Tesla will be eaten alive by those cheap Chinese car companies. Don't even get me started on the robot.
And you can always think of Tesla as like the world's biggest robot company, or semi-sentient robot company. So the car is kind of a robot on 4 wheels.
Yeah, a robot on 4 wheels that can't even get across the car park.
And so then, we could probably take that same technology and put it in a humanoid robot, essentially use the Tesla full self-driving or autopilot, or just generally speaking, real-world navigation.
And shock and horror, they keep releasing fake videos like this one, where Elon Musk proudly tweets Optimus folds a shirt. And people were like, hang on, sir, we did this back in 2016 when we faked the full self-driving video. This might end up with us in court. You know, people might see you tweeting that Optimus folds a shirt and think that the robot is actually folding the shirt, rather than just, say, being a automaton that's just being controlled from just off screen. You know, this is nothing more than a remotely controlled animatronic. And you will be shocked to find out that what they've done could be outclassed by what was available 3 years ago. So he, soon after that, publishes the disclaimer. You know, just in case anyone thought him tweeting that Optimus folded a shirt means that Optimus was actually folding a shirt. Important note, Optimus cannot yet do this autonomously. Well, yes, that's because it's being controlled as a literal animatronic. And then he goes on to say, oh, but I'm sure at some random point in the future, it'll be much better. You know, just like full self-driving.
And with the full self-driving computer, essentially the inference engine on the car, it kind of makes sense to put that onto a humanoid form.
Yeah, did anyone seriously believe that the AI that can't even drive a car across a car park can suddenly run a robot?
So this is essentially the same full self-driving computer that runs in your Tesla cars, by the way.
Oh yeah, sorry, forgot. Tesla investors, or they've actually released, and this is their most recent post about the robot, which actually isn't faked, which shows its amazing abilities after years of development to walk slowly in a straight line on a flat, unobstructed floor.
So this is essentially the same full self-driving computer that runs in your Tesla cars, by the way.
Holy crap, someone get this man another $56 billion bonus stat. Look, it's as simple as this. Just claiming that you know more than anyone on earth about manufacturing doesn't make it true.
At this point, I think I know more about manufacturing than anyone currently alive on Earth.
Claiming you're a tech company no more makes you a tech company than claiming you work 100 hours a week means that you actually work 100 hours a week.
Does WeWork's implosion pose a systemic risk? Company went from a $47 billion valuation to near bankruptcy in just 6 weeks. It's been kind of a phenomenal story to watch.
WeWork, one of the largest companies ever to go bust was just a regular office rental company that claimed they were a tech company, and enough people believed in that at its prime it was worth some $50 billion. Tesla is just a car company that claims to be a tech company. But this is what gets me, is the sheer level of delusion on display here. 10 years ago, you might have given Musk the benefit of the doubt, but now there is a 10-year track record of him making a dozen claims where he claims he's going to revolutionize the world and has delivered none of it. In fact, we should probably have a new fairy tale. Not the boy who cried wolf, but the Musk who cried full self-driving. Except in this story, the moral is you can get really, really rich if you can convince enough people to believe your lies.
What I can say is we're going to move to just truly massive scale. Scale that no company has ever achieved in the history of humanity.
And luckily for Musk, it is completely legal to tell those sorts of lies. And no one has ever gone to jail for it. How did they say?
They're coming to get you.
The funeral is about to begin. And that's today's video. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, maybe give it a thumbs up. And if you really like the work of this channel, yeah, I can support it directly through Patreon. And thanks for watching.